Praise God and welcome to the fifth part of this series. This is Joshua Nwokedi Izubara, pastor of the Ambassadors Church, Kubwa, Abuja, Nigeria. For further correspondence and communication, you can see our details at the end of this broadcast. We continue on the explanation of the scriptures that seem to suggest that man is a spirit or has a spirit. And today we are looking at Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 7. This is a very important verse that's always used to support that man has a spirit or is a spirit. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 7, King James Version, then shall the dust return to the dust, to the earth, as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. So many people believe that this passage suggests that man has a spirit, and when someone dies, this spirit of man goes back to God. Before we go further to explain this passage, I want you to know that if this passage suggests that man has a spirit, then it means every spirit of man that dies goes back to God, whether he's a believer or unbeliever. Because it says here, then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. It means that everybody who dies, their spirit goes back to God, whether he's a believer or not. But I want to ask you, is that so? Is that so? If it is not so, then the spirit here cannot mean a human spirit. If everybody that dies, if the spirit of every human being that dies goes to God, it means every human being is saved. But as long as every human being that dies does not go to God, it means the use of the word spirit here refers to another thing other than a human spirit. Now let's look at this verse. Now, let's look at other translations of this passage for a clearer understanding. Look at the Good News Bible. Our bodies will return to the dust of the earth, and the breath of life will go back to God who gave it to us. Good News Bible explains this. Our bodies will return to the dust of the earth, and the breath of life will go back to God who gave it to us. Like it says here, the spirit, King James Version, the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. What did God give to us? God gave to us the breath of life. That's what makes us alive. It is when the breath of life is taken away that we die. So the use of the breath of life here, or of the breath of life here, is figurative. It means that life is in the hand of God. When someone dies, his life is in the hand of God. If the person is ever going to be resurrected, it will be by the power of God. Nobody has the power to retain the breath of life in the day of death. And once somebody dies, he cannot resurrect himself. He can't raise himself. He can't help himself. Even Jesus did not raise himself from the dead. The Bible is clear about that. God raised him from the dead. When a man dies, he can't help himself. The life or the breath of life goes back to God who gave it. It doesn't go back as a person. It goes back in the sense of life going back to God, or being in the care of God, or being in the hand or the power of God. It's only God that gives life. It's only God that can restore it back. That's what this passage is talking about. Dust will go back to dust. And remember, we said the other time that the soul is part of the dust. The only thing that God gave to man from outside the dust at creation is the breath of life. Jesus said, "You will not leave my soul in the grave, neither will you allow the Holy One to see corruption." He said, "My flesh will rest in hope." When Jesus died, his body and soul went to the grave. But he said, "Into your hands I commit my life," the breath of life. "Into your hands I commit my life." Into your hands I commit my life. You see, so the soul and the flesh were in the dust. But God had to restore life to the soul and to the flesh. And then they came back to life, to consciousness. So you see here, look at Common English Bible also. Dust returns to the earth. That is Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 7. Dust returns to the earth as it was before, and the life breath returns to God who gave it. The life breath. Good News calls it the breath of life. Common English Bible calls it the life breath. So the spirit here also, the ruach in this verse, refers to the breath of life and not human spirit. The breath of life is the gift of God to all flesh at creation. Never forget that. The gift of God to all flesh, all creation at the point of creation. Let's look at the second verse before we round up for this edition also. Isaiah 57 and verse 16. Isaiah 57 and verse 16. King James Version. "For I will not contend forever, neither will I always be wroth. For the spirit should fail before me, and the souls which I have made. For I will not contend forever, neither will I always be wroth. For the spirit should fail before me, and the souls which I have made." So the King James Version translates the Hebrew word ruach here as spirit, trying to support the view that man has a spirit. But let's look at other versions and see how they will translate that word ruach in this verse. New Living Translation says, "For I will not fight against you forever. I will not always be angry. If I were, all people will pass away. All the souls I have made." You see, all people will pass away. All the souls I have made. You see, so New Living Translation had to paraphrase this expression here, because "for the spirit should fail before me." The spirit here is the breath of life. So when the breath of life ceases, the people die. The people die. So that's what he's talking about, not the human spirit, but the breath of life that God put in man at the point of creation. NIV, look at how New International Version translates this place. Say, "I will not accuse them forever, nor will I always be angry, for they would faint away because of me." They would faint away because of me. You see that? The very people I have created. It didn't say NIV, they understand this expression. This is an idiomatic expression. It doesn't mean that man has a human spirit. It's talking about the breath of life that leaves them, and they faint, they fell, they die. So spirit in literal uses is eternal. If we talk about the spirit, spirit is eternal. The Bible calls it eternal spirit. So how would now the spirit, in the people fell? No, you understand that it cannot be. It cannot be. So the reference to fainting or exhaustion of the spirit in this context here is about loss of resilience or courage to the extent of death. It's a figure of speech. It's a figure of speech. It's a figure of speech. And spirit in literal usage is eternal, like I said before, immortal. It is never wearied nor faintly. It doesn't faint. A spirit does not need revival. It rather revives all things. You know, Jesus said something like that. He said, it is the spirit that gives life. John chapter 6 and verse 63. It is the spirit that gives life. Contrarily, mortal men need revival, human beings, because we can lose our spirit, our breath, and die, and our body is called mortal body, is subject to death. So we need the help of the spirit. The spirit gives life. The spirit gives life. The spirit gives life. Now, notice something. We are living souls, but the spirit gives life. Jesus is now called life-giving spirit. We are called living souls, but spirits are life-giving spirits. Life-giving spirits. So as long as you are a living soul, you are not a spirit. When you become a spirit, you become a life-giving force, a life-giving spirit. Spirit gives life. So a spirit does not depend on breathing. I depend on breathing. When I stop breathing, I die. A spirit does not depend on breathing. A spirit gives life. A spirit gives life. A spirit cannot die. A spirit does not depend on breathing to live. That's the difference between what we call a spirit and a soul. Every human being depends on breathing to live. But spirits do not breathe. Spirits do not breathe. They don't live by breathing. They live by the supernatural, immortal nature of the spirit. So this is where we're going to be stopping for in this edition today, in this part 5. I'm sure that you're beginning to see how the Bible uses the expression ruach and neshima. Every time the word pneuma, Greek word pneuma, or Hebrew word ruach is used to talk about human life, it should be translated as breath or life. Sometimes that word ruach or pneuma is used to talk about courage, used to talk about attitude, or used to talk about principles, or even it's even used to talk about the invisible part of man. It can even be used to talk about the mind. Every such time it is being used idiomatically, not literally. Man is not a spirit, and man does not have a spirit. Man is a soul, and when man dies, he does not continue to exist. Man loses consciousness at death. The Bible is very clear about that. It says, a dead man, the dead know nothing. It says there's no knowledge, no understanding in the grave where you're going to. The dead cannot press jar. So when somebody dies, he does not go anywhere. They don't see him anywhere. He doesn't go to heaven. He doesn't go to anything called hellfire. He goes to the grave, and he must remain in the grave, the state of unconsciousness, until God, the only true God, the God of Abraham, is able to call him back to life and restore his life back to him, because he's the source of life, and he's the only one who can restore life back to the being. Till we come your way again, I'm sure you're being blessed. Join us again in the next part, part 6, as we consider the scriptures, or as we continue considering the scriptures that seem to suggest that man is a spirit or has a spirit. I'm Joshua Nwokerisubara, pastor of the Ambassador Church here in Kubwa, Abuja. Bye.